What if Naruto controlled all 5 elements and built a powerful harem with Hinata, Temari and Tenten? Part 1. Man has always been a greedy animal. His greed is like a bottomless pit, never ending, unable to be satiated. This was the one main reason which led to man's downfall. The world was created in a perfect equilibrium, 7 sins and the 7 virtues, all set to counterbalance each other. This ensured the peace and the continuity of the land. Chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, patience, kindness and humility. Lust, gluttony, greed, pride, sloth, envy and wrath. The paths were laid down for man. In the end, it was his decision to follow it. Unfortunately, led by the darkness that resided within their hearts, many men follows the path of evil. While they did this, they neither did care about others, nor for the world. So, in the end, this all led to the first sundering. In other words, the Judgment Day. The entire frame of the world was ripped apart when the multiple nations resorted to their nuclear weapons against each other. The terror that it inspired was so immense, that simply decided it was better to kill oneself instead of suffering in the long war. It wasn't a genocide, it was an extermination. By the time mankind realized their mistake, it was too late. Multiple landmasses had detached from their original position, and selected new positions to rest. The aftereffects of the nuclear radiation had major effects. While it killed almost all of the Earth's population, it did have a good side. Chakra was born. We never decided on his name. A very much pregnant Kushina Uzumaki announced, as she looked up from her book. You were right on that regard, Kushi. After all, our son must have a wonderful name. Let me pick the name. I don't trust your ideas, she announced, pumping her fist in the air with extreme enthusiasm. Seeing his wife, Minato couldn't help but chuckle. All right. Don't go all ballistic on me now. So what do you have in mind? I don't know. Let me think. Take all the time you need. I got it. Let his name be Naruto. Quote. What? Say something. Minato jumped back into reality. Kushina, don't you think that Naruto sounds bit weird? Just when he had said it, he utterly regretted his mistake. Immediately, Kushina's figure, more importantly her face, was taken up by a dark aura. A genjutsu of people dying and screaming for their lives began in the background. Minato, she began in a sickly sweet voice, do you want to disagree with me? The mere tone of her voice sent extremely cold shivers down her spine. No. Actually it's a very nice name. Yeah, Naruto is the best name ever. Good. Then it's final. Why yes. Minato gave a sigh of relief. His wife was certainly scarier than him. At times he really thought about giving up the title of Hokage to her. He was sure that Iwa wouldn't even try to peek into Konoha then. The Red Death of Konoha was a fearsome title, and everyone, including him, feared its wielder. Even if she was pregnant, she still used to pack a hefty punch. A few months later, the council was quiet. The fourth had defeated and sealed the Kyuubi into his son. Just moments after his birth, the baby, Naruto as Kushina called him, was made to shoulder a huge burden. That too when he was just born. No child had to subject to such a burden. Even though, he couldn't help but crack a smile at the child's name. It seemed that Kushina had loved Jiraiya's only, normal, novel. But it seemed that the rest of the council did not share his views. Sarutobi sighed. He absolutely hated this. Why can't the Kyuubi just die? And the hell did it attack Konoha of all places? Minato had told him that the Kyuubi was under a genjutsu, which infuriated him further. There were many people who daydreamed of destroying Konoha, but to control a mite-tailed beast to do their dirty job was a downright dirty trick. Moreover, controlling a tailed beast like that would require high amounts of chakra and chakra control. The only people who were capable of doing it was the first and Sarutobi's sight on Fugaku, who had a mixture of a smug grin and an infuriated expression. He knew that Fugaku always hated Minato for surpassing him. It was a well-known rumor that Fugaku aimed to be the Hokage, but Minato bagged the spot. The fact that the Namikaze was an ancient and powerful clan didn't help either. Now that Minato was dead, and Kushina was in a coma, he had the perfect chance to end the Namikaze line. However, Sarutobi was still deep in thought over Minato's last wish. Only he, Jiraiya, Tsunade, his old teammates, and the heads of the Uchiha and Hyuga clan heads were aware of Minato's and Kushina's wedding. Sarutobi was brought back to the present by yelling and screaming from the civilian side of the council. He winced at their tone, as he really didn't expect the Haruno to be accepted into the council so soon. Her voice was extremely loud, and Sarutobi was confident that Danzo was half willing to turn it into a weapon. The demon should be killed. Finish what the fourth started. Kill him, before he kills us all. The shinobi clan leaders sat extremely quiet, contemplating the situation. Hiyashi had his ever-present stoic, emotionless look on. Sume Inuzuka was silently fuming at the sight of the infant. The Ino Shika Cho trio were deathly silent. An expression shared the Aburame clan head, Shibi Aburame. He shook his head. This was not the way it was supposed to happen. Calling for the council's attention, Sarutobi began. As per the fourth's dying wishes, he wanted the child to be seen as a hero, for the duty and burden they are. I will never see him as the savior. Another civilian shouted out. Sarutobi sighed. That was the fourth's wishes. If you, the fourth, would have never expressed such a wish. This time, it was the Haruno who shouted out. Enough. Sarutobi slammed his fists on the table. If anyone dares to interrupt my speech again, it shall be the last mistake they shall make. Is that clear? He let out a wave of killing intent sweep over the crowd, to consolidate his order. Very well then. It seems that most of you are not willing to abide by his wishes. It comes to me to see that it is enforced upon you all. Anybody, I repeat, anybody, as of now, even mentions the connection of the child to the Kyuubi, they shall be punished by death. Roars of disapproval met his ears immediately. Someone from the civilian side had the audacity to break his law immediately as he had announced it. With a snap of his fingers, that man's head was rolling on the floor, removed by one of the Anbu who stood behind the now headless body. Instantly, the crowd sobered up. At that time, Fugaku spoke up. I don't think that I approve of your decision, Hokage-sama. The punishment seems too harsh for the populace. Surely it is the children that must be. Don't you dare finish that statement, Fugaku. First of all, you send a minimal task force to the protection of the village, and then you disobey me further. Not at all, Hokage-sama. His tone was anything but apologetic. We were merely delayed due to an earlier incident at our compound. Pray tell me, what was this incident? Wait. Don't tell me. Let me tell you something. As the fourth was fighting the Kyuubi, he said that it was under a genjutsu. A powerful one at that too. Now, I am wondering, who could be able to fool such a might beast by just genjutsu? There are not many people who are so easily able to cast and control people by that. However, I have heard that the Sharingan is perfectly capable of such a feat. What do you say for that, Fugaku? The entire council had gone silent. Fugaku had gone completely red, and had become the center of attention, and Naruto was completely forgotten. Are you saying that the Uchiha, a loyal clan to Konoha, led the demon to attack our village? I am not saying that. However, it is a possibility. The Uchiha clan shall submit to questioning from tomorrow, without any delays. After all, we can't have anyone turning traitor, can we? After a pregnant pause, which was punctuated by the quiet fuming of Fugaku, he finally answered. No, Hokage-sama. I will see to it that your wishes are carried out. Shibi Aburame spoke up. If I may, Hokage-sama. After getting a nod, he continued. What is to be done of the child? We cannot just let him out in the open, for I'm afraid that our enemies might try and capture him, for their own purposes, once they have heard of this event. Quote. Sarutobi sighed again. He really wished that Minato was alive or Kushina was awake to help him sort out this mess. It seems that they shall have to hand it over to the orphanage. I cannot allow anyone to adopt them, for there are more pressing matters at hand. Within a few minutes that session of the village council came to an end. 6 years later, the orphanage had unnaturally a large number of children. This was mostly due to the attack of the Kyuubi, which left many as orphans. Since it was lunch, many children piled into the mess hall, waiting for their daily meal. Well, almost all. Naruto Uzumaki was sitting in his dusty and extremely drafty attic. The roof had several holes, which the head lady had conveniently forgotten to repair. The room was completely bare, except for an extremely thin rug and a few toys which were left by an old man who used to visit him occasionally. A minute cup of water was placed on the floor, his lunch for the day. He always used to wonder why everybody used to hate him. As far as he knew, he hadn't even harmed anybody. It used to be completely contrary to the fact that all the adults used to call him a demon or a murderer. Even the children of his age group used to ignore him, for reasons unknown. That did not even used to end there. He was made to lock up the attic each and every time someone used to visit the orphanage. The actual meal that he used to get was once a week, and it used to consist of half-boiled rice and somewhat rotten vegetables. The taste used to be disgusting, but hey, at least he used to get some nutrition from that. Moreover, he was disallowed from even touching the orphanage's books or toys. The lady always used to kick him in return, saying things like, "A demon like you don't deserve such things." Every time he used to step outside the orphanage, the people used to chase him as if he was the winning lottery ticket. And once they used to catch him, the after effects used to much severe. He hardly used to remember the multiple times he was admitted into the hospital for his injuries. However, to his surprise, his wounds always used to heal rather quickly, for some or the other reason. Moreover, once he was in the hospital, he used to feel a certain pull towards a certain direction. He used to ignore it, but it always used to nag him in the end. But that was not his biggest problem. From the last few months, due to his malnutrition, he had started to hear certain whispers inside his head which all were extremely disturbing. Once he even had gone into a maddened rage due to them. He had told the old man about that the next time he visited, and then he was forced to sit for a mental therapy lesson with some blonde ninja. Their lesson was firmly ingrained into his mind. Try to rein in your negative emotions. Since then, he had initiated some mental exercises, and controlled his emotions. Initially, it was a disaster, but he learned how to improve in time. Just then, the door slammed open, and the lady who was the head of the orphanage came charging in, her face completely red with anger. Without any preamble, she rushed in and grabbed him by his hair. Naruto felt incredibly annoyed when he found that her nails were digging into his scalp. "All right, you demon. I've put up with you for 6 years. Now, I'm sure that you will be able to take care of yourself out there. Get out of here." Naruto tried to resist, but she just backhanded him. Anger started to flood his system, yet he tried his best to remain calm. A deathly whisper started in his mind. "It's all right, hate her all you like." By that time, she was dragging Naruto by his hair, not even caring in the least if she tore his blonde hair off. She deserves to die. Naruto made a feeble attempt to free himself, but his 6-year-old body wasn't able to match an adult's strength. They all deserve to die. Just then she kneed him viciously in his stomach. She wanted to throw him out without causing a scene. But that was the last straw. Just when she resumed pulling the boy again, Naruto broke off her hold with an ear-splitting roar. With incredible speed, he knocked her off her feet, causing her to land heavily on the hard granite flooring. The lady was shell-shocked. She had never felt such killing intent before. However, Naruto did not stop there. With the strength which was unreal for a 6-year-old, he caught her arm, and kicked perfectly and expertly at the joint. The effect was instantaneous. Her arm was in 2 separate pieces, a fact which was punctuated by her painful scream. She froze again when she heard him chuckling evilly. "You seem to enjoy messing with my hair and head. Now let me return the favor." Naruto caught hold of her hair, tightly. With that job done, he banged her face against the cold stone flooring with an incredible force. The initial impact was hard enough to break her nose. However, he didn't stop there. Grinning sadistically through his red-slitted eyes, he repeated the action multiple times, until he was sure that her skull had developed multiple cracks. Her face was completely bloody, and a few tiles on the floor shared the same substance. After that, Naruto jumped out of the window and rushed to the place that he knew he would be safe. The tall tower. 2 years later. A lot had happened over the last 2 years. Ever since that incident, Naruto had doubled his mental training. The most important thing was that he had an apartment of his own, along with a monthly allowance. The old man, no the Hokage or Gramps, as he used to call him, also taught them something known as henge. That ability was used by him to the maximum extent, ensuring that he would get goods at normal prices. The shopkeepers used to overcharge him, that too for outdated products. Under the henge things were much easier, and Naruto used to find himself buying stuff for almost 5 times lesser the price that the ones they used to charge him. In his free time, he used to scour the village library for books. He developed an intense interest in chemistry and physics. A few scrolls about the various arts of shinobis caught his attention, and since then he had started to train. Naruto found out that he had immense chakra reserves. For some reason, on the other hand, Naruto's control over it was suffering. Escaping villagers and the occasional ninjas had made his body incredibly agile and strong. He was now an adept free runner, capable of jumping from one roof to another without hurting himself. However, all that changed one day. He was rushing home, for it was the 10th of October, and it was getting dark. He had to get home because he knew that he would regret it if he wasn't. However, in his hurry he had forgotten all about henge and was jumping around in his normal appearance. But, his luck took a bad turn as they rounded a corner and bumped into a celebrating mob of flak jacket-wearing ninjas. Crap. He tried his best to run away from them, but there were almost 15 of them and he was only one. Most of them were highly experienced, and threw their kunais and shurikens with lethal accuracy. Naruto knew that henge would not work on them since they were ninjas and were not willing to give it a try. Finally, with minor cuts on his body, he was trapped, for in front of him after 10 minutes of running was a dead end. Slowly yet steadily he turned around to face his would-be attackers. Even before he could blink, one was already on top of him, thrusting a vicious punch in his stomach. He failed to react in time for the follow-up attack and was thrown back by a kick to his face. He felt his front teeth breaking, and a familiar copper-like taste filling his mouth. Spitting out the red liquid, he struggled to stand. The instant he stood up, his shoulder was met with a disastrous axe kick, which instantly dislocated his shoulder. Finally, the attacker finished with a double punch to the chest and stomach, while adding a double kick for extra injury. The final attack had left him completely broken, along with multiple broken bones, broken ribs and a punctured lung. The light went out from his ice-blue eyes and he fell to the ground, dead to the outside world. Hey, a demon. Too easy to kill. The power to hurt. The power to maim. The power to kill, that is the power I bestow upon you. Go and bring forth chaos. Just when the group of arrogant chunins was going to leave the alley, an exceedingly brutal killer instinct slammed down upon them. Most were forced to their knees, while few struggled to remain standing. They turned around, only to open their eyes in shock to see that the boy had risen up again, completely ignoring his tremendous injuries. His chakra was a mixture of dark red and dark blue at that moment and was radiating off him in waves. His eyes had completely changed color. For the white had remained the same, but the icy blue iris was replaced by a swirling mass of a dark blue, almost violet color. The center of the iris was occupied by a blood-red color. Then they heard the last batch of words that they were ever going to hear. Null void. Initially they felt as if the air was mildly sucked from the area around them, but however the suction grew stronger within seconds. Moments later, the entire air around them was getting sucked away in an upward direction while the air pressure around them dropped instantly due to the lack of air. Just when they started feeling the effects of suffocation, the suction continued, until their skin, followed by their blood vessels, ripped out of their body, piece by piece. When they opened their mouths to scream, only silence met them. Thanks to the vacuum created, their bodies imploded, and then exploded, painting the alley red with blood and organs. As the last ninja died, Naruto fell to the ground, unconscious. Just before he hit the floor, he saw someone with a weasel mask jump down in front of him. It was dark, there were no walls, and the floor was full of grime and knee-length murky water. And it stank. A lot. Naruto was currently within that unknown location, and his inquisitive mind and sharp mind was quite boggled. The last thing he remembered was that of running away from the people, and getting pummeled from them. He remembered falling to the ground then. After that, it was a blank slate. Crap, I felt as if I was ran over by a horde of stampeding fangirls, damn. Quote. He got to his feet, and cast a look around at the murky area. It reminded him of a sewer, and a foul-smelling one at that too. Wrinkling up his nose, he grimaced. He absolutely hated it, no thanks to the mob of ninjas and civilians who had thrown his battered body into one after his frequent beatings. So to saw, it took him complete 2 days to rid himself of the stench, and the two with multiple bars of scented soap that he had brought from a store under the guise of a young girl. I really hate this. This shall take multiple days to remove the stench now. I am really starting to hate the villagers now. Quote. He wandered around, trying to find his way out of the place. Just after a few seconds, it dawned upon him that this was not Konoha's sewer, but a completely different place. Fear began to fill his body, but thankfully he was able to control that emotion, all thanks to the 4 years of rigorous training. After controlling his breathing, he started to move in a random direction. Soon after, the sight that he saw was something that he was not expecting at all. An immense cage was placed in front of him, along with a piece of paper with the kanji seal on it, which was extremely small in comparison with the bars of the gate. The interior of the cage was pitch black, restricting his vision. He really doubted the ability of the small wad of paper to keep the door closed, but then he remembered that the art of sealing was an extremely complex one, and it was capable of sealing almost anything, thus contributing to the amount of time required to master the art. The complexity of the seal was proportional to the time required to completely understand and produce it. That all he was able to learn from the library. Even if he was born without his massive intellect, he was sure that removing the seal was a crime. Just as that though went through his mind, a giant claw lunged at him from the darkness, prompting him to dodge. With the single command of jump that was echoing in his mind, he simply dived out of the way, missing the claw by a mere second. His reflexes were good, honed thanks to the mobs that were too kind to throw all kinds of shrapnel towards him. Before he could start to wonder on who attacked him in this mysterious place, a loud voice broke his chain of thoughts. After all this time, he finally deems me worthy of my presence. The very tone of the voice sent a small shiver down Naruto's spine. The voice was loud and booming, it demanded respect. This was the first time that he had heard such a tone. But didn't answer his questions. He stood up, albeit a little shakily. Slowly, yet steadily he faced the huge cage. Who are you? Where am I? And what are you doing in that cage? His response was another chuckle which would have scared the crap out of him if it weren't for his immense control over his emotions. Meanwhile, 2 large eyes appeared by the edge. It slowly followed by a gigantic body, that of a fox. Naruto noted that it completely resembled a normal one, except for the size and its ability of human speech. Then something that caught his attention. 9 tails swirled behind the fox. Naruto's mind was blissfully blank. The sight was enough to send him into a shock, if not for a coma. The only animal that was a fox and had 9 tails was the Kyuubi. Who am I? I think that you have just got the answer to that question, boy. He spat the last word as if it was venom. Kyuubi. Not just the Kyuubi. Kyuubi of the 9 tails, the strongest of all the demonic-tailed beasts. Whatever. What is this place? Naruto congratulated himself, he had managed to keep his tone level. This is really amusing. How come you do not know your own mind? This place is in my mind. He just got a nod in response. What are you doing here? And here I thought that you were smart. It seems that I was wrong. Care to be a little less sarcastic, furball? The Kyuubi growled and tried to attack him again. However, this time the seal reacted, and it forced the Kyuubi back down. I see. Thanks for showing me that. It seems that the seal prevents you from breaking loose or forcing your way out by chakra overload. If it weren't for the seal. Shut up. You are in no position to make threats. After all, this is my mind. With that, he closed his eyes and thought of causing Kyuubi pain. The effect was instantaneous. He opened his eyes to a howling fox. Now, since we have got the fact that who's in charge here, let's get down to business. Who did I get here? I know that we can't just skip into our own mindscape every now and then. However, the Kyuubi still tried to act cocky, and Naruto had to resort to torturing the giant fox a couple more times. In the end, the fox told him that what had transpired. The news was a surprise for Naruto, since he rarely lost control. What amazed the Kyuubi was that Naruto took it in stride that he had killed multiple people. On being questioned of that, he simply retorted, "I don't care. If they think that they can simply unload their anger on some innocent guy, so can I." That truly shocked Kyuubi. He honestly didn't expect such an answer. He was initially shell-shocked, but was replaced by amusement. He. It seems that fate was kind enough to give me a worthy container. A few seconds later, Naruto spoke up again. Hey, what was the thing that I did there anyways? I didn't recall learning that jujutsu. That's because you didn't. And that wasn't a jujutsu. It was something that only me and my brethren possess. And what is that? Control over the elements. As you are aware, there are 9-tailed demons. The one-tailed being the weakest, while I am the strongest. We each were given control over certain elements, in accordance to overpowers. I have control over all the 5, for I am after all the strongest one among them. Quote, so you are saying that you passed that down to me? A nod. So I'll be able to manipulate the 5 elements at will. Not manipulate. Control. Full and absolute control. Manipulation is bringing out a temporary change. You can change anything you want with the elements, that too with minute amounts of chakra. That is, cool. Naruto's response caught Kyuubi off guard, for he only was seeing his serious facade till then. He simply chuckled then, for he had forgotten that he was still a kid. But remember, you just have the control over wind now. The control of the other elements will come over time, with training. So the moot point is, you can do whatever you want with wind now, raise the air pressure of create a pocket of vacuum anywhere you want, for a measly chakra amount. There are a few more abilities that I have passed down to you, but we'll come to that later. Thanks for that. Now another question. Why did you attack Konoha? That is a discussion for another time. It's time for you to go anyways, you're waking up. Will do. But I want the complete explanation next time. And before you go, remember. If you ever become weak, your body shall be mine for taking. We shall see. Sarutobi was worried. Naruto was in the hospital for 2 days, and yet his injuries had shown no signs of healing. This was for the first time. He was incredibly thankful for Itachi bringing him instantly to the hospital. 2 cracked ribs had ruptured his blood vessels, causing intense internal bleeding. The medics had cleared up the internal injuries, but the rest of the injuries still hadn't healed. For unknown reasons, Itachi had some sort of attachment to the kid, and it eluded Sarutobi's reasoning. Furthermore, the council was on his heels, demanding to kill the demon brat, as they called him. Just then, Naruto opened his eyes, and muttered a single word. A word that brought Sarutobi back to earth. Kyuubi. Damn, he found out. Sarutobi turned to look at his face. You had me were. However, he was cut off. Why? I don't know what you mean, Naruto-kun. Don't play games with me. His voice was cold, almost emotionless, causing Sarutobi to flinch. After a few minutes of explanations, Sarutobi had told him everything, except the knowledge of his parents. To his surprise, Naruto took everything in stride, as if it was nothing significant. That sums it up, I think. Naruto's tone was still a tad bit cold, but was an improvement from the former. Naruto, I am sorry for. Save it. I know that you are hiding something still. And now Naruto, let's be reasonable. You have just woken up. You did not deny it. Sarutobi sighed. He was caught, and he knew that. He really admired the kid's knowledge. Tell me about my parents. Silence immediately invaded the room. Quote, quote. I'm waiting. I have told you Naruto, they d. Bullshit. That is the truth, Naruto. I didn't know your father, but I knew your mother at least. One of the finest kunoichis of Konoha, she was. Her title of, Konoha's Red Death, was well earned. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki, and she loved you more than her own life Naruto. However, her body was not found after the Kyuubi's attack. She was declared Kia soon after that. Naruto gave out a long sigh. This is new. Thanks, old man. I think that I want to be left alone for a while now. I want to catch up with all the new information. And I want to see what I can really do. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow at that, but Naruto assured that he would explain it to him later. Naruto felt it again. A weird pull on his chakra. It was almost like it was pointing him in a certain direction. The strange thing was that it used to go on and off every 10 hours or so. The pull was desperate, and entirely clingy. It used to bother him to no end. Finally, after a complete day of resting and finding out from the Kyuubi that his wounds would take 2 weeks to heal because of the integration of the new gained abilities, Naruto decided to kill some time and followed the pull. It was a taxing journey, for Naruto still had his injuries, and was not used to a prolonged stay at the hospital for bone fracture and breakage. The pull led him through multiple wards and halls. It was midnight and there were very few people around and about. He was completely ignored, and he preferred it that way. The long walk finally led him to a lone part of the building, with very few rooms, all of which were heavily secured. The entire area simply screamed, "Go away." But he continued on. Finally, he reached a door at the end of a hall. By then the pull was almost desperate, and he was finding it extremely difficult from barging into the room itself. Just when he raised his arm to blast the door out of its hinges with his new abilities, the sound of the door opening made him scamper to a nearby medical cart for cover. A ninja in full armor along with a mask came out of the room. His face was hidden by an animal mask. He wore the standard issue Anbu armor. The only difference was that he had the symbol of root on his mask. He held a small tube of red liquid in his hands which Naruto identified as blood. He didn't look around, nor did he wait. He simply walked away, not even bothering to check the premises if anybody had seen him. In order to check that he was truly gone, Naruto decided to test out his abilities. He sent out a minimal wave of air in all directions, while he monitored its motion from his place. The air wave rapidly spread in all directions, and was blocked by the rare medical cart or the overhead sign. But no human body came into contact with it. Giving out a sigh, Naruto hurried over to the door, for the pull on his chakra was lessening, as if it was going back into its slumber. Giving it an overlook, he decided breaking down the door would be extremely hard. His mind instantly started to think of alternate ideas to get inside. He remembered the multiple physics and chemistry books that he had devoured in the library. Suddenly an idea came into his mind. He focused on the air and concentrated it into multiple air blades. The blades lashed out at the door, leveling it into shreds at an amazing rate. The sight inside didn't surprise him in the least. There was a patient on a bed, along an IV drip attached to the patient's arm. However, Naruto found out that it was too dark for him to make out anything further, so he stumbled a bit before he found out the light switch. Thinking of it as a training exercise, he willed the air to pressure up the switch, flicking it on just by air pressure. His face set out in a wide grin. He finally had something to do to pass his time. Turning around, he saw that the patient was actually a female. Her waist-length hair had a unique blood-red color. Her face seemed like a work of art, as if it was crafted by the gods themselves. Crappy description, I know. Cheeky smiley face. She had an incredible build, which signified her status as a ninja. However, by the status of her arms, it seemed as if she was suffering from malnutrition and atrophy. Moreover, she was tightly lashed against the bed, while 2 IV drips were connected to either side of the bed forced the liquid into the patient's arms. Naruto checked their contents. One contained all the minimum necessary nutrients required for an average person. The other was a simple sleep inducer drug. Without thinking, he yanked out the IV, stopping the drug from flowing into the female's bloodstream. From the volume of the drug it seemed that it was connected just recently. This just settled to pique his interest, for his curiosity was growing by the second. He rampaged in the room searching for the patient's info. However, he did give out a groan when he found out that it was attached to a pad on the bed, which was in front of him the whole time. Grimacing, he started to read. Just as his sight hit the first statement, his eyes threatened to pop out of their sockets. Name: Kushina Uzumaki. Age: 25. The rest seemed like a hazy blur. There wasn't a capable thought going through his mind. The mere sight of his mother sent his mind into overdrive, causing him to jump about the room in pure bliss, an emotion which was rare to him. However, just when his eyes landed on his mother yet again, the joy was replaced by sadness and anger. They will pay. Those who did this will pay. He pondered on his options for a while. However, having an exhausted and injured body was completely counterproductive to his plans. He figured out that his mother was the one who subconsciously brought him in her direction. According to Sarutobi, Naruto figured out that she must have been kept in a similar state for 8 years. The reasons were unknown, but Naruto swore that he would find it out, and would accordingly punish those responsible. Moreover, he also figured out the fact that for some reason, the sleep-inducing drug had to replaced every 10 hours, thus the periodic pull. He had absolutely no doubts that the person in front of him was his mother. The pull on the chakra, the security and the name was enough. Finally he decided to wait for his mother to awake. Thankfully it was not long till his mother awake. Naruto meanwhile had removed all her restraints, and had put her in a more comforting position. Apparently, being strapped to a rock-hard bed for 8 years was not a comforting position. Kushina opened her eyes drowsily, for her bloodline was still working overtime to rid her of the effects of the drug. She used to awaken every now and then and used to see the same, feel the same. Some Anbu guy and occasionally a doctor used to be in front of her, injecting her with that vile drug which she really hated. Her throat was parched, her stomach grumbled heavily. She needed nourishment. But this time everything was different. The light was on, for starters. Everything earlier used to be carried out in darkness. Then she didn't feel her restraints at all and felt more at ease. And the final shocker was a face that looked like a younger version of her husband, was staring owlishly at her. Minato. My name's not Minato, Mom. Naruto. Naruto just flashed her a cheeky grin in response. Without any warning, she lunged forward, and engulfed him with a bear hug. Within moments, the room was punctuated with her sobs. Naruto was stunned, but returned the hug. After a good 5 minutes of sobbing they broke apart. Kushina instantly gave out a dry cough, and Naruto brought her a bottle full of water in response. She gave out a weak thank you and started to down the fluid. So, you're really my mom. A nod. Naruto gave out a whoop at that, almost started to dance. Kushina was mildly surprised at that, but held her voice. After a little while, when Naruto had calmed down, she started to ask him a few questions. What is the date, Naruto? The 12th of October. 8 years since the Kyuubi. Kushina gave out a whimper at that. She had missed out 8 years of her son's life. However, she continued with her questions. She saw that Naruto was completely happy to see her, a fact that boggled her. She thought that he was adopted by at least one of the ninja clans. When questioned about it, Naruto told her about his life, part by part. By the time he was done, she was shaking in anger. She really wanted to massacre many people, but her current state restricted that. After she had calmed down, Naruto continued his story. He told her of the event a few days back, and his new abilities. He was truly shocked when she did not berate him for killing those people. She just said, I would have done the same. Kushina's head was reeling. Half of it was happy that she had met her son. The other half was demanding the death of villagers, ninjas and Minato. But they had problems that they had to currently deal with. Naruto, how long are you to be here? The old guy said that at least 2 weeks. All right then. Our priority here would be first getting out of this section. Do you think that you can manage to take me to another room? Trust me, I can. However, you can't simply roam in your original appearance, Mom. Those who had captured you will be back. I think that I can do something about that. 2 weeks passed easily, with Kushina living in Naruto's room under a genjutsu, enjoying a comfortable bed for once. Naruto used to sneak out regularly to bring her favorite food, ramen. However, much to Kushina's annoyance, Naruto used to include vegetables into the ramen, thus enriching her diet. That and her regeneration ability had brought her completely back into a healthy woman. Finally, on the day when Naruto was going to be discharged, an Anbu told him that he was summoned before the council. Kushina sported an evil grin at that, which made Naruto edge away from her. Mother or not, she was extremely scary. Sarutobi was not having a good day. The civilian members were out for Naruto's blood, seeing that he had killed the loyal ninja of the leaf. However, this was not the case with the others. Most of the ninja clans wanted to adopt him, for just a civilian finishing off 15 chunins easily was not an everyday occurrence. When, most, meant the Inuzukas, Huggyas and the Uchihas. Sarutobi knew that they were all out for his power, for none of them even showed even a trace of interest in the boy earlier. They were the first one who voiced their displeasure of letting Naruto live. Just then, the doors were blown open with a gust of wind. 2 figures were walked in, and the door instantly closed again with another gust. The council stopped their arguing, and looked at the 2 new arrivals. The first figure was naturally Naruto, however he was dressed in a half-sleeved dark red shirt, along with fingerless black leather gloves. He had black jeans on, along with combat boots. The other person however did catch the attention of the rest of the council. The figure was dressed in a blue button-up shirt, with the top button off, revealing a small sight of her bust. She also had black pants on, along with an attached kunai holster to one of the knees. Attached to her back was a katana, and a feared one at that too. She was Kushina Uzumaki, Konoha's Red Death. The sight was imposing, and Sarutobi was baffled. He was sure that it was not a genjutsu, for he had tried to dispel it the very instant he recognized her. However, the Haruno deemed it necessary to badmouth anyone who came into the council. Who the are you? And why are you with that demon? Killer intent instantly filled the room, causing the civilians to start sweating immensely. However, Naruto looked unfazed. She tugged at his mother's dress, signaling her to stop it. With that, he spoke in a formal tone. Can you repeat that, councilwoman? I did not hear that. However, another guy decided to speak up before she did. Thankfully Naruto saw this, and snapped his fingers. Many were puzzled by that action, for it did not have any visual effects. However, Sarutobi noted that the man was still yelling something, but no sound was coming out. The entire council looked bewildered. When the man stopped his apparent mouth movement, Naruto snapped his fingers again. Vacuum pockets are so fun to create. That statement was the trigger. The council exploded into chatter again, most of them demanding how could the demon do that, while the others were asking about the identity of Kushina. Sarutobi decided to ignore them all till they all calmed down. Naturally, this was the best tactic. After everyone had calmed down, Naruto spoke up. In case if any one of you is wondering, this is Kushina Uzumaki, my mother. Thankfully, no one wanted to invoke her wrath, and remained thankfully silent. Hiyashi Hyuga spoke up. Very well. Since your last names match, I will not challenge that piece of news. However, the main reason you have been called here is because you are accused of killing 15 Chunin 2 weeks earlier. Do you deny this? No. Are you sure about that? For the penalty of killing a ninja of the village is a crime. I said I did it. However, I am not eligible for the punishment. Do you know what this means, Naruto Uzumaki? Please enlighten me. Fugaku chose that moment to speak instead of Hiyashi. That means that you are willing to get adopted into one of the ninja clans without any objection. The punishment shall be decided by the clan later. Naruto noticed that he had a hungry glint in his eye. I find that unacceptable. I did not break the law, I was merely following it. Be out with it, brat. I was merely following the third's law. I hope you all know what that entails. They broke the law. I punished them. The entire council stiffened up at that. However, Fugaku, Sum and Hiyashi were seething, they had lost their chance. Then Danzo, an old war hawk, took the silence to speak. With that issue out of the way, the next thing that comes up is that how you managed to kill 15 experienced Chunin on your own. Naruto sighed. He hated to do this, but the council wouldn't leave him till he would tell them about it. Thus, after a few minutes, the council was again in uproar, with most of them demanding that he to be used as a breeding factory, thus allowing Konoha more of elemental controllers. However, they were again silenced by a wave of killer intent, again from Kushina. Whosoever even dares to raise a hand against my son, she unsheathed her katana by a bit, shall die. Unfortunately, a person who was blissfully ignorant of her title, jumped the gun. Shut up, you bitch. How dare you speak in that manner to the council? We shall use the Kyuubi brat in any way we like. The key that was emitted from Naruto made the one from Kushina's like a genin against a cage. Insult me, it's fine. His iris turned into a swirling mass of dark blue color. Insult my mom, you're dead. With that, he just spoke out 2 words. Vertical assault. The person, who was a head of a merchant guild, was forcefully pushed onto the ground. It seemed as if the very air around him was pushing him down. Just then, a small yet incredibly powerful twister originated above his head, tearing into his body and ripping it apart, from the inside out. When the blood settled, he was nothing more than a pile of shredded organs. Naruto turned to look at the rest of the council. So you all better get that into your heads. He broke the law anyways. With that, the 2 Uzumakis walked out of the hall, leaving many disturbed people behind. The 2 Uzumakis walked down the road, with a certain estate as their destination. After they had left the courtroom, Naruto had promptly thrown up in the street, had continued to do so until all of his morning ramen was out of his stomach. During his ordeal, Kushina had settled with rubbing his back to calm him down and ease up his agony. Then she had comforted him, as the first kill was never easy. A good hour, some explanations, tears and hugs later, they had resumed their earlier journey. During Kushina's 2-week-old vacation, as she aptly called it, she had told Naruto of his heritage and his father. He already knew about the Kyuubi, so thankfully she didn't need to skirt around that little issue. However, the main problem was with the ceiling. She frankly hated Minato for doing this to her baby, and that was all to it. When she told him about that, he was surprisingly silent, but a deathly calm, still aura began to form around him. It frightened her outright, but thankfully the aura disappeared as soon as she had noticed it, as if it was never there. Then, she was half afraid of Naruto hating her for her loathing of the fourth. But she had worried in vain, because Naruto had similar thoughts as her. In truth, Naruto was angry, very much angry. It took him all of his remaining willpower to not to tear the closest person apart from sheer rage. He absolutely loathed the idea of human sacrifices, for the act of sealing a malevolent beast inside a person. Moreover, that person being a newborn baby used without the said child's opinion was a sacrilege in his mind. Naruto, are you all right? His mother's loving voice invaded his violent thoughts. What a stupid question. Yes, Mom. All of the information, together, was too much to handle. I'm sorry. For what? For not being there to prevent your Fa Minato from sealing the Kyuubi in you. Don't be. His tone was smart and sincere. They walked on, largely ignoring the glares and looks that they got from the general populace. Slowly, the surroundings changed from the usual homes and flat to give way to the smaller estates. Later this changed to grander estates, which were only reserved for the higher clans of the village. Where are we going? Naruto asked, in his usual monotone voice. Oh, we are going to our home, Naruto. We don't have a grand estate like the Hyugas or the Uchihas, but it comes pretty close to that level. Naruto. What? Why are you so calm and quiet? you know. Live a little. I am always like this. But why? It is due to my tenant. Hearing that answer, Kushina was stunned for a little while. Don't be ridiculous. I am not being ridiculous. I am plainly stating the truth, as it is, unbiased. Naruto said. I know that. But why the hell are you so emotionless? Because I was asked to. The answer was like an atomic bomb. The silence that followed was long, mildly punctuated by the heavy breathing of Kushina. Her cheeks were flared, and her face was full of surprise. On the other hand, Naruto was the complete opposite of her, calm, collected and confident. He wasn't even breathing heavily, a testament to his control over his body and mind. After many minutes of silence, Kushina spoke up, we need to talk. Then after a few days, Kushina had finally hammered it into Naruto's head that controlling the body, mind and not mean completely suppressing the emotions. However, it still took him longer to adapt, as old habits were not easy to break. He still was calm and collected, although he started laughing at her jokes, which was an improvement. However, he was able to switch back into his earlier personality in the blink of an eye during serious situations, a skill that had left his mother boggled. But by then Naruto was of 8 years of age, and his skills only consisted of great intellect, reflexes, higher stamina reserves and insane chakra reserves. The rest of the skills were unknown. His ninja skills were almost zero, but he was an expert in dodging incoming projectiles and missiles. His stealth was also commendable, and so even was his speed. Years of escaping crowds had given him the ability to free run almost anywhere, and that was a gift. His immense knowledge and science was also a huge plus. Even so, Kushina decided that it was time to start his training. Next day, Naruto entered the clan's training ground quite early, only to find that his mother was already present there. This was quite a surprise to him, and also a cue to become serious, as his mother usually preferred to get up late. Shaking away the small amount of dread that crept up his spine, he steeled himself and went forward. Kushina was dressed up completely in black, with the exception of her shirt. Her black pants went up till her knees, giving her extra flexibility, and her hair was tied in a ponytail. Naruto was dressed up in a Chinese-type white shirt and black pants along with shoes, and no gloves. Think Bruce Lee from Enter the Dragon. The training ground was made to resemble a mixed environment, with a small pond in the side, along with raggar rock formations in the other. Grass occupied a majority of it, while sand and mud was near the pond. All the training equipment was to the side, protected by a seal barrier, made by Kushina herself. The walls were also protected by a similar yet a more powerful barrier, along with sound reduction and self-repairing ability. There were no windows, except for some skylights on the roof. The air was supplied by multiple air vents, which also had air purification seals on them, in case of an assassination attempt by poison gas. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, son. It's good that you are early, we can also start early. Are you ready to start your training? Yes, Mother. Now, when we are undergoing training, you will refer to me as teacher only. No Mom, Mummy or Mother. Got that? Yes. Mo teacher. Okay, since we have got that out of the way, I want to know about your abilities. You had said that you can control over the elements, right? Can you explain that a bit more? Naruto nodded and shoved a hand through his golden-colored locks. His mother motioned him to sit down, so he simply created a plane of wind for both of them. Kushina was skeptical of it at first, but on seeing Naruto simply stepping into thin air and just sitting on it, she tried the same and succeeded. On seeing her son's level of skill and control over his abilities, her heart swelled with pride. My abilities allow me to completely control and manipulate any chosen element at will, and I can even create the required element I wish to control. However, in order to create the required amount of the element, it shall require a certain amount of chakra, since nothing in this world is for free. But, to control it, no chakra is needed. It is controlled by my mind, or any body movement that I wish to perform. As of now I can only control wind. The fox says that the others shall be unlocked as I grow stronger and with time. He also said that control over fire has the highest chance next, seeing that fire was his affinity. He said that I was able to wind first because I have a natural affinity for wind. Does this control also extend over chakra-controlled elements? I never tried it out earlier. So, let's put that to the test, shall we? Naruto nodded and dispelled the wind floor that they were sitting on. He was ready for it, but the sudden disappearance of a solid wind wall caught his mother by surprise and she fell to the floor ungracefully. The sight of his mother on the floor brought a laugh out of him and a growl of anger from his mother. After helping his mother up, they retreated a distance from each other. Both steeled themselves for the clash. Naruto took a deep breath and exhaled it. He then nodded to his mother. Wind style. Air bullet. A ball of compressed air left his mother's mouth. Naruto was straining hard, trying to think on how to use his powers effectively. The air was compressed, so there was no way he was going to split it. However, he just gave it a try, only to fail and the attack to land on him. His mother screamed in fright and immediately went from a stern and enthusiastic teacher to a worrisome mother. It took him quite some time to assure his mother that he was all right. It even took him longer to convince her to give the idea another try. Once again the ball of compressed air was launched towards him. Naruto scientifically analyzed the problem in front of him. The ball was full of force, and thus he would require something equally powerful to stop it. But he had learnt that it was always favorable to divert a large force to a different direction. Blocking it would only end in injuries. So he simply reached out, and just before the ball caught him, he deflected it from its course of direction. The ball of air then continued on its diverted path, unhindered. A nod from Naruto was enough as a signal for his mother to launch more at him. The blasts of air kept on coming, and Naruto kept on deflecting them. A few blasts later, he started to catch them outright and throw them back at her. After another 10 blasts or so, he simply sucked the compressed air from the ball, and concentrated it on his palm, forming a much more compressed sphere of air yet exponentially more powerful. And then, he threw it back. Congrats. Thanks a lot, Mom. What did I say? Sorry, teacher. Let's get going. The next 6 months involved Kushina extensively training Naruto. Almost every day except Sunday, she used to train him from sunrise to sundown. She used to say that it was for her 8-year absence. She didn't teach him any jujutsu, seeing that he controlled the elements almost to the point of insanity. However, there was a drawback. The more amount of the Naruto had to control, more the stress on his brain. If he was forced to control too much, he would lose consciousness. Sometime into the 5th month of his training, Naruto had gained control over fire. Now he used to combine air and fire to a drastic degree, often resulting into massive explosions. He was made to undergo rigorous physical training and toning. His gravity seals were on 3 gigaseconds, increasing his weight by 3 times his original. While he trained his body, he used to make 10 to 20 clones and used to instruct them to read up on a particular subject. He used to specifically order them to read up on one particular subject at a time, so that information from alternate sources would not clash. This way, he used to ensure that his bookish knowledge was well developed. The absolute rate at which Naruto was burning through the training regimen had simply stupefied his mother. However, she had yet to begin with the actual training sword fighting. 3 years later, it was time for Naruto to join the academy. Actually, he was a year late, which was more troublesome, according to his best friend Shikamaru, but he did not care about it. His training was still on, although he had not managed to unlock any more elements yet. However, he had almost mastered the 2 that he had at his disposal. His mother's training was horrendous, almost barbaric in the later years. Even Sundays were not spared. Ever since his mother had figured out that he preferred dual-handed medium blades or a single katana, she had turned from a normal woman into a completely hyper fangirl who was drooling over the options of the swords that her son had. So far, Naruto was an amateur in single sword fighting, and had just started with the way of the 2-sword style. The control over them came fast when you had a teacher who was always eager to beat you to the ground. The only reason why Naruto was able to train so extensively was due to his Uzumaki regeneration bloodline. Moreover, this was also accented by the advanced regeneration that came with his Jinchuriki status. All the wounds that he used to receive while training used to disappear in a flash. That meant no sore muscles, no scars, and hardly any exhaustion. He remembered the day when he had a serious talk about Kyuubi with his mother. Flashback. Naruto had just slipped out his three-tailed form, and had begun to work on his four-tailed form. All those years of mental and emotional training had paid off. He was easily able to control his emotions and the taint of the demonic chakra while accessing any of his tailed forms. Very good, Naruto, that was excellent. Even I was not able to control the monster within me so easily. This is really an achievement. Naruto gave his mother a weak smile, for he was too tired to do anything else. Just don't overdo it, for then the demon's taint shall be too great to over. Which demon? What? I asked, which demon, Mom? What do you mean, Naruto? You know what I mean, Mom. I told you, Naruto, you are just a normal human, you are not a No, Mom. I am not a normal human. Normal people do not have great insane beasts of chakra sealed inside them. Normal people live a normal life, not being hounded day in and day out because of something they couldn't control. Naruto, it's not like that. Of course it's not. Everyone think that the humans, they are always right. They are always good and the demons are hell spawns. They always think that they are evil, even if they are trying to help. Kushina remained silent during this, for she knew that she was guilty for the same thoughts. Naruto went on and on about that for almost 5 minutes, when finally he calmed down. Hey, if they think that a demon can't be good, I'll break that belief. If they can't believe that humans can be bad in comparison to demons, I'll break that belief too. For after all, I am a demon. I'll show them that even a demon is capable of whatever things a human is. Quote, Kushina still tried to change her son's outlook on him being a demon, but had failed ever since. End flashback. The Ninja Academy used to chug out fresh genins for the village. However, the standard of the ninjas had long fallen since that of the genins during the Third Shinobi Wars. The main reason being the lack of a war and the second reason being the council being manipulative and strong enough to twist a few rules and requirements of the Ninja Academy so that any child from a civilian family could easily pass the academy with just some bookish knowledge and meager skills. He found it highly stupid that civilian families would be willing to send their children into a job which did pay more, but there was the constant risk of their lives. He figured out that they must have wanted their children to kiss up the clan heirs so that later their families could easily gain power later. There were a few civilian children who were clearly talented and truly wanted to take on the job of a ninja seriously, but they were far too less in number. He readied himself in the morning, for he was going to interact and learn with a large group of children who were around his age group. Sure, he had gone to the park and for a stroll with a few of his friends, but those were almost 10. He was dressed in a black shirt, along with sleeves which were folded up to his elbows. He also wore dark pants, along with a kunai holster attached to one of its legs at the knee. He also carried a katana fully sheathed in his hand, as he preferred it that way instead of tying it to his waist. According to Shikamaru, the class had a total of around 60 students, himself included. And that was the thing that was precisely making him nervous. A hand settled down on his shoulder as he neared the main gate. His mother, despite all of his protests, was coming to see him off. Relax. It shall be all right. You shall need to respond with something better if you want friends. And if I don't want them? Don't worry, I'm sure you shall be famous soon. That is precisely what I am afraid of. Don't be. See, there's Shikamaru. Go now and enjoy yourself. Don't prank people too much. And at least try to pay attention. And behave. Naruto just gave her a smile and a half-hearted wave. Turning around, he found his friend half sleeping under the tree he was supposed to meet him at. He gave a deft kick at his side to wake him up. OWWWWWW. Damn, that hurt. Why did you wake me up anyways? You were going to give me a heads up about the general populace, remember? Troublesome. So they began walking on the way to their class, which also was kept same, thanks to Kushina's preference. First of all, we have Choji. You know everything about him, so I'll skip the troublesome details. Quote. Then comes Shino Aburame. Not much is known about him, except that he comes from the Bug User clan and is rather quiet. An average performer, although I think he is holding back. Alright. Then the next major and troublesome fellow is the current dead last, Kiba Inuzuka. Quiet, arrogant, proud and rowdy. Wants women at his sides always. Carries a pup named Akamaru with him at all times. Has an eye for Hinata Hyuga, the current heiress of the Hyuga clan. Go on. Then comes the Banshee Queen Sakura Haruno. A big screamer, Uchiha fangirl, and pretty useless, so I'll not waste any more time on that matter. Civilian. Next. Ino Yamakana. Another Uchiha fangirl. Just stay away from both of the two troublesome girls and you'll define. Quote. Sasuke Uchiha. Child prodigy. Currently second in the entire batch. Excels in almost everything. Big time emo. Vocabulary rather restricted. Sees us as gnats in front the so-called Uchiha clan. Currently has a massive fan club. Personality just got much worse after the entire clan disappeared. Considers himself to be the king of the world now. Will do anything for power. Asshole. I think he doesn't have one. You checked it out. That would be plain troublesome. Why did I even ask? Then finally comes the first and the best student who is also a girl, Hinata Hyuga. Best in everything, and extremely partial towards girls. Extreme boy hater, for some dumb reason, mostly due to her family or something. Remember, she hates every guy's guts, and won't hesitate to separate them from your body. Considers us all to be rapists or something of that sort. And a fact which is extra troublesome, she is the most beautiful girl in the class, thus gets a lot of attention from every boy. So she's always on the edge, so be wary of her. She is also known as the demon incarnate, or something by the boys, while the girls see it as the opposite. I seriously wonder why the blatant favoritism. However, she is a kind and gentle being, if you don't hound or trouble her. Otherwise, she'll pound you to the ground. I wonder why she hates boys outright. I don't know and don't want to know. It's too troublesome to approach her even. Just the duo approached the door for their classroom. A brown-haired boy along with red marks on his cheeks went flying out of the door, and into the sky. During all of this, he was screaming his lungs out. Moments later, a girl came out, complete with a fiery illusion of demon horns and a tail behind her. It also seemed like fire burned in place of her eyes. Her hair was long and dark blue. It flowed behind her like a smooth curtain, without a single crease. Some bangs covered her face, although the ones on the left side of her face were clipped together with a blue hairclip. Her clothes were nothing flashy, but easily accented her. Her eyes were a rare lavender color, a rarity among the Hyugas. Shikamaru leaned towards Naruto and whispered. That was Kiba and this is Hinata. Naruto just gave him a slight nod. As she turned her head to look at them, he shoved a hand through his golden locks and gave her a lady-killing smile. Hi Hina-chan, I'm Naruto. For the first time in 11 years, Hinata Hyuga blushed crimson.